Welcome to the Long Island Pine Barrens Society's Best of the Rest campaign. My name is Richard Amper, and I am Executive Director of the Society. As you may know, the Society has led the preservation of some 106,000 acres of Long Island's premier ecosystem, featuring the purest, cleanest drinking water and the most beautiful land on the East End, our most valued treasures.
And I'm Alan Singer, President of the Pine Barrens Society. For the best of the rest, we are now identifying the next 3,800 acres of pine barrens, representing some 22 projects to be permanently preserved. I'd like to introduce board member John Turner.
Hi, I'm John Turner, and I serve on the board of the Long Island Pine Barrens Society, and I have the privilege today to be able to provide to you some information about a new exciting initiative of the Long Island Pine Barrens Society, and that is an effort to try to bring into the public domain a bunch of additional properties that have been identified to be part of the overall preserved area of the Pine Barrens, which now consists of almost 100,000 acres. To use a sports analogy, we're kind of at the 10-yard line, and if we acquire the parcels that I'm about to show to you, we think we'll really be able to punch it into the end zone, and our efforts at preserving land in the Pine Barrens will be pretty much complete. So starting off, the area of Rocky Point, which is a New York State preserve, about 5,200 acres of contiguous land has already been preserved, but there are a few inholdings, particularly in the eastern, southern, particularly southwestern area, and a little bit along the western boundary that we would like to see brought into the public domain. And if we do that in the fields of the Rocky Point property, we'll be able to preserve this beautiful and very colorful native wildflower known as butterfly weed, which is an important plant for monarch butterflies. Moving further east, again, we're going to take you on a journey throughout the breadth of the Pine Barrens along the Peconic River, about 15 miles east of Rocky Point, is this little inholding here. It is surrounded on both sides by additional DEC land, again owned by the state, and we'd like to see the main parcel acquired, as well as some small parcels right along the river that are owned by a family that has had it since at least 1970s. And if we acquire this, we will be preserving forever the habitat of beautiful blue flag iris right along the banks of the Peconic River, swamp milkweed, another wetland plant along the river, and then Joe Pye weed. So those are just three of the many, many plants that are found along the banks of the river that would be permanently protected if we could acquire those parcels and help actually round out that and really make whole that area. Right now, that little bit of a donut hole, and we want to close that hole if we can. The third property that brings to your attention is in this area. It's about almost 700 acres in size. It's one of the two largest that we're looking to see acquired or see ultimately protected. It is the Rose Breslin properties. It is pretty much all upland forest. There's no real wetlands on the property, but being that extensive in size, it does provide habitat for a wide variety of wildlife, different owl species and other birds of prey and turkeys and fox and deer and species like that. So we'd love to see that acquired. There's some wonderful trails that exist in the property, as well as one area over this part of it that recently burned. And if you go there, you can really see how fire helped shape the Pine Barrens. It's a great kind of an outdoor classroom there to observe. If we are ultimately successful in preserving this in the fields there, again, just sticking with our wildflower theme, we'll be able to preserve things like dogbane, which, just like with butterfly weed, is another important wildflower that provides nectaring opportunities for a wide variety of insects. Just north of extending the Pine Barrens northward, in this particular area, you see Shoreham over here, but right in this area is the 850 or so acres that were once part of the property owned by, if you remember, Loco and then other companies for possible construction of the second nuclear reactor. The first one was going to be further east, but this was fortunately never happened. And now we're at the point that we'd like to see it all brought into the public domain. It is in the core preservation area of the Pine Barrens, and it is just an exceptional, stunning property, a mile-long stretch of shoreline on Long Island Sound. It really looks like something primeval. There's a beautiful marsh in the eastern reaches. There's some very large glacial erratics, or really large boulders the size of this house. you can experience. And if you go there, you'll see a few species of wildlife, undoubtedly. One of them, not surprisingly, because they're like woodlands, exist at Shoreham, you've got great horned owls. And so that's just one species of many that you'll be able to go there. We're very hopeful that that acquisition will occur and the Shoreham property will be added to the public domain. Heading out all the way to the eastern reaches of the Pine Barrens, and you see the boundary of the Pine Barrens here, the legal boundary. Just over in this area is a set of about 8 properties that total about 100 acres that are situated on the Ronkonkoma Moraine. Very beautiful rolling topography, upland forests, oaks and pines. And if you go hiking there, brought it to the public domain, which will help again really preserve this whole complex, this very large complex of already existing public land, public parkland, kind of as large as some of the parcels further to the west. We'll be able to ensure and be able to see British soldier lichens, which are abundant in this area on the logs, trees that have fallen down, decomposed. The lichens have become established on them, and it's a very, very beautiful and you can see colorful lichen. Gets its name because their fruited bodies look like the uniforms of British soldiers many, many years ago. Moving right along, we've got the Epcal property, which is situated over in here. The Epcal property, Epcal standing really for Enterprise Park at Calverton, is owned by the town of Riverhead. It consists of a mosaic of wetlands, forests, and most notably grasslands. And in fact, the property contains the best grasslands in the entire state of New York, and certainly on Long Island. And not surprisingly, with the grasslands there's a number of grassland-dependent wildlife species that occur there. And so if you go there, you'll be able to see species like the grasshopper sparrow living up to its name, perched on a tufts of different wildflowers, singing away its song, and then also the very beautiful eastern meadowlark has a very melodic song. Sounds like it's singing its name. So our hope is that a very significant fraction of Epcal will be preserved ultimately. Moving right along to the Pine Barrens Trail, we've identified a couple of small parcels totaling about 5 to 10 acres just to do infilling along this Pine Barrens Trail, which is one of the recreational hallmarks of our efforts to preserve the Pine Barrens. The neat thing on Long Island, with 2.6 million Long Islanders, is you can hike from Rocky Point all the way to Hampton Bays and you never leave public parkland. And the Pine Barrens Trail is a significant part of that. And so we want to see some additional acquisitions in that area. And if we do that, you'll be able to preserve and see a whole bunch of low bush blueberry that turns a brilliant crimson color in the fall. And you might also see this neat little mushroom or fungus called earth stars. They get that name because of the star shape to the body, as well as that they come up out of the earth. And they're just fascinating little creatures that you could enjoy if you go hiking in that section of the Pine Barrens Trail. The last property I want to talk about is we don't actually have any photos of, but it's situated along the Carmens River right in this area, and that's the Schuster Farm, about a 45-acre farm that, because of the use of fertilizers, does contribute nitrogen to the river. Water quality in the Carmens River generally is good, but it has declined over the past couple of decades as development has occurred within the watershed of the Carmens. And this is a key parcel that if we could acquire the development rights and change the agricultural practices occurring on site, or preferably buy it outright and have it just succeed back into a field and forest, that'd be ideal. And so that's the Schuster Farm. And that would connect up some of the land holdings in the western part, like Warbler Woods, along with Cathedral Pines County Park. So that's really it.
I'm Suzanne Ruggles. I'm also a board member. The properties that John has identified are in the townships of Southampton, Riverhead, and Brookhaven.
Now let's hear from 2 of Long Island's most influential state representatives who share our land preservation goals. First, let's hear from New York State Assemblyman Stephen Engelbright.
100,000 acres of pine barrens have been protected thanks to the efforts of the Long Island Pine Barrens Society and the enactment of the 1993 Pine Barrens Protection Act. There's still much to be done to permanently protect environmentally sensitive areas that are contiguous to preserved parcels, and the 3,800 acres proposed for preservation will finish the job. Protecting these lands and essential habitat and Long Island's drinking water is of critical importance. I wholeheartedly support this initiative.
Next, it's South Fork Assemblyman Fred Thiel.
The Long Island Pine Barrens Society has been the faithful protector of Long Island's most significant environmental resource, the Central Pine Barrens. Through the efforts of the Society, more than 100,000 acres of land were given special protection by the 1993 Pine Barrens Protection Act. With the announcement of this new initiative, I'm deeply grateful that the work and mission of the Society will take another step to fulfill the intent of the Pine Barrens Act. Generations to come will be the beneficiaries.
So to sum up, the Long Island Pine Barrens Society will continue to protect and preserve the land essential for the protection of the environment on the East End.